Hi friends, welcome to Organic Chemistry. You're learning with Dr. T. Agustin Arul Prasad. Have a wonderful learning. On completion of this module, you will learn to demonstrate the criteria for optical activity. You will learn to explain enantiomers and enantiomerism. You will learn to differentiate diastereomers from enantiomers. Optical activity is the phenomenon of rotating the plane polarized light by a molecule. What type of compounds exhibit optical activity? There are certain criteria for a molecule to exhibit optical activity, and such compounds exhibiting optical activity are called optical isomers. When a solution of known concentration of an optically active compound is placed in an instrument called polarimeter, an instrument which is used to detect and measure optical activity, the beam of plane polarized light is rotated through a certain degree towards the right or towards the left. When it is rotated towards the right or clockwise, you call the corresponding compound as dextrorotatory, and if the compound rotates the plane polarized light to the left or anti-clockwise, then we call the compound as levorotatory. An optically active compound can exist in two isomeric forms, namely dextrorotatory and levorotatory. These are called optical isomers, and the phenomenon which is exhibited by these compounds is called optical isomerism. If we take an equimolar mixture of the two isomers, then the plane polarized light will not be rotated either towards the right or towards the left, and such a mixture of two forms, namely the dextro and the levo form, is called a racemic mixture. A racemic mixture is a 50% dextro and a 50% levo. Optical isomers have the same physical properties like melting point, boiling point, but they have the same specific rotation values but with opposite sign. That is the only differentiating criteria based on which we can differentiate an optically active compound, especially an enantiomer. Now, what are the conditions for optical activity? For a molecule to exhibit the phenomenon of optical activity, it should be a chiral molecule. We have already studied what is a chiral molecule, which is also called as an asymmetrical molecule. And a chiral molecule is the one which has a chiral carbon present in it. And all chiral molecules can exhibit this phenomenon called optical activity. Let us imagine a situation where we have more than one chiral carbon is present in the molecule. Then that molecule may be chiral, it may be chiral or achiral. Now, for molecules having more than one chiral carbon, you must check if there is any plane of symmetry present in the molecule. If a plane of symmetry is present in the molecule that has more than one chiral carbon, then that particular molecule is symmetrical, or it is achiral, and the molecule will be optically inactive. If no plane of symmetry is present in molecules containing more than one chiral carbon, then the molecule is chiral or asymmetrical. What are the conditions for optical isomerism? The first fundamental condition for a molecule to exhibit optical isomerism is it should have a chiral carbon. It can also be considered as the necessary and sufficient condition for a molecule to be optically active. So one of the necessary and sufficient condition for a molecule to be optically active is that the molecule should have a chiral carbon. But that is not alone enough. The molecule should be dissymmetric, which means the molecule should have a non-superimposable mirror image of its own isomer. Dissymmetry is an obsolescent synonym for chirality. But let us try to understand that the most important and sufficient condition and necessary condition for a molecule to be optically active is non-superimposability or dissymmetry. Even if the molecule has a chiral carbon, then it can be optically inactive provided it does not have a non-superimposable mirror image. Therefore, we need to remember that for a molecule to be optically active, the most important, necessary and sufficient condition is the molecule should be dissymmetric, or the molecule should have a non-superimposable mirror image of its own isomer. The non-superimposable mirror image forms of a chiral molecule are called enantiomers. Here we see the enantiomers of lactic acid. So they are non-superimposable mirror image with a chiral carbon to which four different atoms or groups are attached. And a mixture of these two, an equimolar mixture of these two, is called a racemic mixture, and a racemic mixture is always optically inactive. A racemic mixture is optically inactive. So we should remember. So what are the criteria for a molecule to be optically active? It should be chiral, it should be dissymmetric, and it should not be a racemic mixture. Another important condition is the symmetry conditions, where there should not be any symmetry elements present in the molecule, and the molecule should be completely devoid of symmetry, and then only you can call that molecule as asymmetric. Even if there is any simple axis of symmetry present in the molecule, and if the molecule is dissymmetric, which means if it has a non-superimposable mirror image, then that particular molecule can exhibit the phenomenon of optical activity. Now let us try to understand how to determine the chirality using a flow chart. The first question that we should ask for a molecule to be chiral or not is, let us say, the first question is how many chirality centers. If there is only one chiral center, then we would say then the molecule will be chiral. For example, lactic acid. If there are two or more chiral centers, then we have to ask the next question whether the molecule has a mirror plane. If the molecule has a mirror plane like this, then we consider such molecule as achiral, and it is also known as meso compound. If the molecule does not have a mirror plane, and if it has a non-identical mirror image, then the molecule is said to be chiral. Now, if there are no chiral centers, zero, okay. So if there are no chiral centers, and if the molecule has a mirror plane, then we would say the molecule is achiral. If there are no chiral centers, but still if the molecule does not have a mirror plane, and if the molecule does not have a non-identical mirror image, still the molecule is chiral. We will be seeing such type of molecules that has a chiral axis and chiral plane. So molecules with chiral axis and chiral plane need not have a chiral center, but still they are considered to be chiral. Okay, so in this case we can understand that our D-tartaric acid and L-tartaric acid comes under this particular criteria, and it becomes chiral, whereas this mesotartaric acid has a mirror plane of symmetry, and therefore it is achiral. Tartaric acid is a very interesting and a very important example in understanding the stereochemistry of compounds. In tartaric acid, two chiral carbons are present. So therefore, four forms of tartaric acid is possible according to the formula 2 power n. So in this case, n is equal to 2. Therefore, we can have four stereoisomers for tartaric acid. So four forms of tartaric acids are known. Two of them are optically active, which is shown here, and two of them are optically inactive. The other one will be the mirror image of this particular compound. So let us draw the mirror image of this particular compound. Okay. I'm sorry, my drawing is not so good. Okay. So if we can think of a mirror image of this compound. So there are four stereoisomers for this particular tartaric acid. Two of them are optically active and these two are optically inactive because it has a mirror plane of symmetry and therefore it is a meso compound. And an equimolar mixture of plus and minus, that is dextro and levo tartaric acid, forms a racemic mixture and it is optically inactive. A mesotartaric acid possesses a plane of symmetry and it is consequently optically inactive. This phenomenon is called internal compensation, where the optical rotation of one chiral carbon is cancelled by that of the another. Enantiomers are stereoisomers which are non-superimposable mirror image of each other. In a pair of enantiomers, all of the chiral centers are of the opposite configuration. This is one interesting tool to identify a pair of enantiomers. In this case, let us take D erythros and L erythros. Now, in this particular chiral center, the configuration is R, and in the next chiral center, the configuration is also R. Now, if you look into the mirror image of this compound, here in this chiral center the configuration is S, and in this chiral center the configuration is S. So now we can understand that these two D erythros and L erythros is a pair of enantiomer. So for a molecule to exist as a pair of enantiomer, and if it has more than one chiral center, the criteria is the chiral centers will have opposite configuration in a pair of enantiomer. On the other hand, if we take a diastereomer, the definition for diastereomer is very simple. If two molecules are stereoisomers, which means they have the same molecular formula, same connectivity, but different arrangement of atoms in space, but are not enantiomers, then they are diastereomers by default. In practical terms, this means that at least one, but not all of the chiral centers are opposite in a pair of diastereomers. By definition, two molecules that are not mirror image of each other are known as diastereomer. You can understand here these two are pair of enantiomers where the configuration of the chiral centers are completely opposite, whereas in this case only the configuration at this particular chiral center is different for these two, the other one is same, therefore these two are considered to be diastereomer. On the other hand, if you look into this particular system where you have D erythros and L erythros, the configuration are completely different or opposite, therefore they are pair of enantiomers, and in this case it is a pair of diastereomer. So stereoisomers which are not mirror image of each other are known as diastereomers, and non-stereoisomers which are non-superimposable mirror image of each other are known as enantiomers. So, diastereomers are characterized by differences in their physical properties and by some differences in chemical behavior towards achiral as well as chiral reagent. Now you can see this particular molecule as a RR configuration, and this this particular configuration is S. Therefore they have the exactly opposite configuration, and therefore they constitute a pair of enantiomer. Whereas in this case it is R and S, therefore they constitute a pair of diastereomer. And this is S and this is R, this is R and this is S. This is completely opposite configuration, therefore they constitute a pair of enantiomer. In this case this is R and this is S, whereas this is R and this is also R, therefore they constitute a pair of diastereomer. Now what are the different physical parameters that one can ensure for a diastereomer? Configurational diastereomers have different chiral and achiral properties in any environment and as the different compounds. They have different melting and boiling points. They have different solubility and the ease of crystallization. Their spectroscopic characteristics in NMR, IR and UV will be totally different, and their chromatographic retention times will be different. They will have a different specific rotation values, whereas in the case of enantiomer the specific rotation values also will be same, only the sign of the specific rotation will be different, and their rates of reaction with any reagents will be totally different, and they will also have different biological properties. Whereas in the case of enantiomers all these properties will be same, but they will differ only in the sign of the specific rotation. And in general, a structure with n stereocenters will have 2 power n different stereoisomers. For example, for time being, we are not considering the stereochemistry of double bonds. For example, let us consider the glucose molecule in its open chain form. Recall that many sugar molecules can exist in either open chain or in a cyclic form, like glucopyranose or fructofuranose. There are two enantiomers of glucose, which is D-glucose and L-glucose. The D-enantiomer is the common sugar that is present in our body and which is used for our energy. It has 4 stereocenters. Therefore, for glucose, 2 power 4, that is 16 isomers, stereoisomers are possible, including D-glucose itself. And this is galactose. You can see that the correlation between galactose and glucose is, you can see here, whereas D-glucose and L-glucose are enantiomers. You can see they have exactly opposite configuration at the stereocenters, whereas D-glucose and D-galactose is a pair of diastereomer, and L-glucose and D-galactose is also a pair of diastereomer, and one can identify the difference in the configuration. Okay. And enantiomers are stereoisomers which are non-superimposable mirror image of each other. The entire concept of stereoisomerism revolves around all these important terms, and diastereomer are stereoisomers which are not mirror image of each other. In order to understand the essential and sufficient condition for a molecule to be optically active, one should ensure that the stereoisomers have non-superimposable mirror image, whether it is chiral or achiral, whether it has a chiral center or not. Let us not worry about that. If a molecule has the ability or if the molecule exhibit the property of non-superimposability. And see, this is how our coordination compounds exhibit optical activity. In a coordination compounds, we do not have a chiral center. Rather, the coordination compounds exhibit the phenomenon of non-superimposability, and hence it also exhibit the phenomenon of optical activity. So once we are very sure about enantiomers and diastereomers, non-superimposability and conditions for optical activity, then we can understand the phenomenon of optical isomerism, which is nothing but the rotation of plane polarized light either towards the right or towards the left. And the phenomenon of optical isomerism is exhibited by those compounds that exhibit optical activity, and we have understood what are the necessary and sufficient conditions for a molecule to be optically active. Let us summarize. So the condition for optical activity is non-superimposability. the basic condition is chirality, but even if the molecule do not have a chiral center, and if the molecule has a non-superimposable mirror image, then the molecule will be optically active. Enantiomers are stereoisomers which have same molecular formula, same connectivity, but non-superimposable mirror image of each other, then it is called an enantiomer. And the phenomenon of enantiomerism is the phenomenon of the property exhibited by enantiomers is called enantiomerism, which is nothing but non-superimposable mirror image of each other. And diastereomers are stereoisomers which are not mirror image of each other. Thank you.